All right. A pleasant day to all. My name is Sean Coomansingh, and this shall be my Overwatch client report. The purpose of the survey. The purpose of this survey was to observe the feedback gained from players of the game Overwatch, whereby they highlight various criteria of their experience, such as gameplay, likes and dislikes, mechanisms, user interface, etc. The data was then collected and heavily evaluated in order to showcase any trends that reoccur within their sample, and then synthesize understanding from those trends in order to formulate an action plan of what to do next concerning development and design. The finding one. The first finding within the data was a lack of understanding and player collaboration, and this was a critical finding. The most critical finding that was extracted through data collection and assessment was the presence of a lack of understanding and player collaboration. This was seen through asking participants what they disliked most about their most recent game, whereby many entries highlighted a lack of stability in teams and a misuse of communication. Due to the game being team-oriented, victory only comes in the form of working effectively and efficiently as a unit. So by that graph there, by the data illustrated, you can see that out of the entire sample populace, 29% of the population complained about the cooperation in the game, with the second highest of 17% being the player base. The verbatim comment, which is a comment that highlights this trend the most, the game does not do a good job of facilitating proper teamwork and community engagement. To me, this game is most fun when played competitively alongside a team. So if those elements are missing or not aligned well, then the game feels incredibly frustrating. The second finding, also a critical to major finding, was having a toxic community. This was the second displeasing trend that was captured during data analysis, whereby many players showcased their grievance with the player base itself. This grievance was formulated through having a toxic community that encourages verbal, emotional, and mental abuse, limiting growth in skills from more casual/beginner players, deterring newer players from asking for help or even having a safe experience, and reflecting badly on the developers of the game, whereby them promoting this behavior. As you can see by the data illustrated in the graph, that another 29% using the same graph from before showcase their disgruntledness with cooperation, and then 17% within the player base. The verbatim comments which highlight this trend the most. Number one, a lot of the time the toxicity of the other players. Number two, the enemy teams toxic team competition. That's what it is. Number three, the teammates getting upset at you for not playing the game properly, and lastly, the community. For the finding three, game usability, this was the first positive trend. This was the third trend that was captured within the data, whereby many participants expressed their positive connotations towards the user experience of the game. Through verbatim comments, it was observed that the user experience was very intuitive, easy to understand for both veteran and seasoned players of the team-based shooting genre, or players even new to Overwatch and video games in general. This was depicted through an overall demonstration of positive feedback of areas that the player interacts with, including controls, graphics, sound effects, music, etc. As you can see on the first scale, is to rate the following characteristic of gameplay, having a sample size of 48 persons. And you can see that out of the 48 persons, the 100% sample populace, that 63% voted a strongly agree with how well the gameplay was. Next, how did the following parts of the game feel? The in-game interface/HUD. As you can see, 65% of the total population strongly agreed that the in-game interface was incredible. The verbatim comments, having a relaxed atmosphere, highlight the directness of the objective and that the respawn times were short. Even though it's a shooter, it's not gory at all. The gameplay is very dynamic and allows for a lot of unique moments through its characters and mechanics. And lastly, excellent mechanics and character feel in terms of responsiveness. This makes it feel really balanced in terms of skill levels. And the final finding of game variety, again, a positive finding. The variety established within Overwatch was one, if not the most frequent feedback proposed by the player base. As Overwatch uses the team-based playstyle, it offers a diverse cast of characters from assault/offensive characters, defensive and support characters, as well as maps and game modes. Through this, it allows every player the opportunity to exercise their own playstyle and identity with every novel experience. So in the top left graph, the yellow graph, you can see how do you feel about the characters in the fallen areas, and this criteria is uniqueness. And a 65% of a total 100% of the populace strongly agreed that the game promoted the uniqueness of the characters. Next, the orange graph. What do you like most about the game you just played? A whopping 38% said they love the variety of the game, 17% the experience, and then 24% the cooperation. And lastly, the bottom right graph. How do you feel about the characters in the game, aka how fun they were to play? And a whopping 54% strongly agreed that fun was promoted through their experience. The verbatim comments. Number one, yes, continual different gameplay based off the different characters and settings. Absolutely. This game varies from other FPS games like Call of Duty and Modern Warfare, allowing for a unique gameplay style, accounting for the characters, various abilities, and the unique attacks of each character. Number three, the gameplay is easy to learn, and the abilities of each character are not too complicated, while where they are overwhelming. I also love the appeal of the characters and design overall. The arcade also provides a real variety when playing the same quick play style gets old. And lastly, the diversity of abilities for heroes as well as different objectives during each game. Instead of just payload, point control, or capture, you have a combination of them all. I also enjoy the amount of maps. So as you can see from the various data illustrated on the screen, that is mainly positive trends with the bottom right orange scale showcasing 60% strongly agree with the variety supported in Overwatch. So for the recommendation of finding one, lack of understanding and player collaboration is offering the ability for players to filter their online environment with a variety of criteria, such as playstyle, player level, aggressiveness, likes and dislikes, mic options, etc. Due to this, it will allow a custom online experience whereby competitive players will be able to fine-tune their multiplayer environment through filter options, as well as whereby increasing the chances of them being matched up with players of the same interests or same competitive level. And then for the toxic community, being able to highlight and place an emphasis on players who have been reported for showcasing toxic actions, take into consideration how many people have reported them, and then either place these players in a subset of other toxic players or even ban their accounts and subsequent accounts that would be created. Closing remarks. Through careful analysis, the various negative portions of player feedback may be isolated and dealt with accordingly. Having a team-based game means cooperation and interaction between users are inevitable. However, that does not depict the reason for an unsafe interaction in an online environment. It is simply unfortunate that Overwatch is not the only game to deal with having a toxic community or lack of understanding/communication and cooperation. This is simply a case of the online assailants being protected due to not having to use a real identity and as such portray a false persona of being better or superior than others. Through this, new players to the game or players who simply wish to understand the mechanisms from more seasoned players are deterred as they are ostracized for not automatically knowing the most efficient and effective manner to approach the game. If, as a community, we do not hide these offenders of verbal, emotional, and mental abuse, then we can work together to rid the online landscape of not only Overwatch, but all other games with a multiplayer experience in order to truly make video games a safe, enjoyable, and stress-relieving haven for everyone. Thank you for listening.